Hello, welcome to Greet the Week. I am Mona Duncan, and it is a delight to see you here today. We're going to be looking at components of a healthy relationship. And thought we'd start off by kind of looking at what does it mean to be healthy, period, whether it's physically healthy. Is health merely the absence of a disease or sickness? Or is health a little more? Does it also include such things as a positive mental outlook, the ability to get along with others, an agile movement of the body, good digestion and proper elimination? And there's a lot of things that contribute to being healthy physically. So what about relationships? Relationships has been called the most important and the least understood of human endeavors. And some of the components include understanding, caring, not being put down, having a pleasant tone of voice that's filled with care, to have someone's face light up whenever they see you, to give an opinion without an ultimatum, to want the best for us. My sister one time in a school project in psychology was asked to interview people as to the definition of love. What is love anyway? And one of our cousins gave her the definition of love as being something sent down from heaven to drive the hell out of you. And I'm thinking maybe there's a lot of definitions to love, and I'm thinking that one had some truth to it, and possibly because the person was using the disconnecting habits. Dr. William Glasser came up with 7 words, isolated 7 words that can drive apart relationships, and 7 words that can really bind them together. And the ones that push us away, that would make it more hellacious, is whenever we are criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, and rewarding as a way to control. Whereas connecting is supporting, encouraging, listening, accepting, trusting, respecting, and negotiating differences. Well, February is associated, at least in the US, with the celebration of love. The concept of loving and being loved really never goes away. Flowers wilt, candy is eaten, balloons pop, and the cuddly stuffed animals lose their luster and their song. And life can be disappointing when attention wanes. But know this, regardless of your circumstances or your situation, you are unique and special, and you are very lovable. And please believe it. And just like there is sadness at times in December's Holy Days celebrations, so too in February, love's focus. For many, there's an inner longing for what may be missing in the collective pageantry of love. That's why it is so important to have a good, healthy self-love, so that we can love others, and so that we, even those that are not quite so lovable, we can get along reasonably well. I was reading, as I was looking at some thoughts to include in our little chat today, I remembered having read, actually just earlier this morning, I had already put the paper in the recycle bin, and I got up and I went back and I cut the column out because I thought it was something that was worth bringing out in today's topic of the components of a healthy relationship. But this lady had written into Carolyn Hax, who is a HAX, who is a columnist in the Dallas paper. And anyway, the a contributor had written in about a family member that had always been cold and distant and uncaring toward her. And one day the lady said to her, "Do you know why I have always hated you? Because you were born." And yeah, I can see those expressions the same as mine, that jaw-dropping response. And the lady asked Carol, and she said, I didn't respond, but what can I do? How can I go back and respond? And Carolyn had the same jaw-dropping response, that there's no words appropriate for such a blatant attack, and commended her for not giving an instant rebuttal. But then she gave her the advice after she talked through the column, and Carolyn's advice to her was, if your mistake was being born, then it wasn't anything that you did. And so love, relationships are complicated. If love was not complicated enough, we Americans use the word love to express our affection for everything, from people to popcorn to places to puzzles and to pets. That in the Greek language, there's 4 different words that express the different emotions in love. And one is eros. That's the little Cupid that we see for the romantic love of February. Another is phileo, which is a friendly brotherly love. It's kind of the friendship love that Dr. Glasser says is, no matter how we relate to people, the more we can relate to them as friend to friend, the healthier that relationship will be. But phileo is like in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And then the word that kind of covers all those leftover things like places and activities and chocolate is the word stoic, S-T-O-I-C. But then there is a 4th love, and that love is agape, which is divinity, which is the God kind. It's a love that's unconditional, eternal. It's a love that's healing. It is an understanding. It's that mysterious love that we might can, tap into on occasion. It's that mysterious love, realizing that, everyone has worth and value. It's that way we look. It's that mysterious way of understanding when we act out of innocence and also out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. I think sometimes in our activity, in our wanting to be a part, we sometimes do things, say things out of innocence and just not really knowing what to do or how to handle a situation. And sometimes, like the comment that the family member made to the lady that wrote into the help desk, sometimes it's just out of ignorance that we don't really realize what we're doing and what a disconnecting notion it can have. So love is passive and it's also active. In the Hebrew language, I took Hebrew for a while, and I realized that although I loved it, it was beyond me at the time, so I did not complete the course. But in the Hebrew language, it has 2 words for love, and both of those words are in the right now, in the present. They're in the active tense. And one is, I'm probably not pronouncing them correctly, but one is A-H-A-B, ahab, which is a choosing to love from afar. Choosing to love from afar. It's a love that is hopeful. And I think of my grandchildren and how much I just love them. And they're, kind of afar. Not that far. They were here yesterday. We get together very frequently. But the love of children, and when you read the paper and you see all of the reports of child abuse and children dying of hunger, and it's kind of hard to love from afar, to have a hopeful love in situations like that. And I cut out an article primarily for the picture back in July, and I put it in my closet. And every time I walk into this closet, which is several times a day, right up there on the shelf, I see this little baby. And I remember the fact that it says hunger to kill 128K more kids in the first year of the global pandemic. And I think of that and I think, man, how can I love? How can I give enough to help support children? There's poverty. There's so many things in this world. But it's a hopeful love that there will be enough of us universally that can begin to help eradicate these problems that are continuing and ongoing from perhaps lack of love. And the other Hebrew word is Hessedh, Hesed. And it's choosing to love and to keep on loving, whether that love is rejected or whether it is received. It's kind of a steadfast, eternal love. And sometimes we have to love and keep on loving, regardless of. February is the 54th anniversary of Garland and I. And you know what? There have been days I have had to deliberately, on purpose, make a choice to keep on keeping on, having a healthy and amenable and somewhat agreeable relationship. But not only with him, with others too. Sometimes with myself. It's going back and realizing that sometimes the biggest problem we have is the one we have with ourselves. And in the Christian Bible, there is a passage, there's an essay on love that I find very meaningful, and that it speaks directly to me, in that passage gives a benchmark for us mortals in how we measure love, whether it's romantic or whether it's brotherly. Anyway, it really says some outrageous things in that passage. It says love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not get puffed up or pouty. Love does not always have to have its own way. Love bears all things, puts up with all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. I go, whoa, what are you talking about? Kind of the flip of the coin. I like to look at things realizing that, in a coin which is sometimes used to settle a dispute. Sometimes a coin is used to make a decision. And I like to look at things, kind of like to see both sides. Kind of look at things from a balcony position, never to look down on, but to have an emotionally detached point of view. So to observe the direct meaning and also to see what is indirectly inferred. So in measuring myself against this yardstick of love, I noticed that there were two phrases coupled together, kind of like the total behavior of thinking and acting. They were coupled together. They were, the back wheels of feeling and physiology follow in the path of those first two wheels that set the tone. And that passage was, love is long-suffering and is kind. Oh, wow, that just was like being splashed with ice water. What? Surely you jest. Now, I had long-suffering down to a fine art. I mean, I could roll my eyes and I could sigh deeply. And it was obvious that in my patience, I was suffering. It says it's suffering and it's kind. Oh no. In disagreeing with someone, I'm to be kind? Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said out loud, are you telling me that I am supposed to be kind to my disagreeable mother-in-law? Or maid, or child, or boss, or neighbor, or you fill in the blank. But I find that another word for love is charity. And I find that in some instances, it is a lot easier to be charitable than it is to be loving. And I'm leaning to being kind toward the lovely as well as the unlovely. To being able to overlook bad attitudes and to respond in kindness to the irritant or the rudeness or the disrespect. As the lady that wrote in about someone saying to her, I hate you because you were born. And how she wanted to give a response, but she wanted to give a response that was not even more disconnecting. To respond kindly to snarky remarks. To trust the snarky person's internal wisdom heart, self-correcting. Well, charity begins at home. And I am humbled by the fact that this guy that's been hanging around with me for 54 years loves me and keeps on loving me. Because opposites attract, but opposites also attack. And over time, that refreshing opposite way of seeing life from the way you view life personally can become stale and irritating. And in one's point of view, just wrong. But even so, let's be charitable. Speak up, yes. Speak up knowing that a soft answer works better at turning away wrath than a harsh answer. So how do we be charitable? Well, we put together the hormonal passive love of Eros and the Hebrew Ahab love may draw a couple together, may draw anyone together, may draw someone to a friend that later becomes an enemy. But it's the active, ongoing, over and over choosing of the Hadassah love that keeps a family together, that keeps a community together, that keeps a country together. And it is the phileo, friendship love, and the fun-licking, shared interest, stoic love that makes the relationship enjoyable. It grows into that love that endures all things, hardships, grief, difficulties, and believes all things, that sees good in the midst of the not so good. A love that's in it for the long haul. And a commitment for no escape clause. Even though there needs to be boundaries, there's always boundaries. So 54 years and counting, and it has been difficult. It's also been wonderful. Magical adventures, and roads ahead look promising. A love that lasts is rooted in friendship and mutual respect. There always has to be a mutual respect there. And it's in putting first things first. In a lifetime of looking at and thinking about and trying to understand and practicing agape love. Because I am willing to receive divine universal love. I mean, obviously it was meant for us to be here, or we would not have been given life. We are meant to be here. We have a function, a purpose on planet Earth. And therefore, it is accepting ourselves as we are, warts and all. But it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean not working on those areas where we disconnect. And it's working on being able to be charitable to others. And so I like to do a little exercise with myself, and I invite you to do it with me. And that is for just a minute to think of someone that is very difficult to be around, whether it is someone that you are kin to, or someone that is in the neighborhood, or just someone that you know of remotely through the news, through the Facebook comments, through the whatever, the person that you just have such difficulty that you say it is hard, or maybe someone that you would just really like for them to see your point of view and they absolutely refuse to. It's so hard to talk to that person. So what I'd like you to do is just to stay out. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. And as you think that and think about that person or that comment, kind of scan your body. Are you tense? Did it bring back a flood of negative emotions? Now, let's look at it again and look at the fact that working with, talking with that individual, it's not easy. It's not easy. Say it out loud. It's not easy. We are not denying the difficulty. We're looking at our response to it. It's not easy. I mean, see them on their orating, and you're wanting to orate back. It's not easy. And scan your body. Is there any leeway? Is there any way that conversing with that individual becomes a little bit easier? Well, I would like to finish here with a quote from C.S. Lewis, a British writer and a theologian. And he is talking about, says when first things, Stephen Covey in his book talked about put first things first. And C.S. Lewis is talking about when first things are put second. When first things are put first, second things are not suppressed. But, well, here's the whole quote. I'll skip down to the ending of it. He says, when I have learned to love, we'll use the word God, and I do too. I see it as that. But when I have learned to love, if you need to call it the universal mystery, when I have learned to love the concept of love better than my earthly dearest, I shall not love my earthly dearest better than I do now. Insofar as I learn to love my earthly dearest at the expense or instead of loving the universal love, I shall be moving toward the state in which I shall not love my earthly dearest at all. When first things are put first, second things are not suppressed but increased. Second things are corrupted when they are put first. That is something to think about. Something to think about. In the meantime, may you find joy, may you find connectedness, and may you see how wonderful and lovely you are as an individual. Thanks for tuning in.